Hunt for the Fallen Star, Chapter 20. Race Back. From the distance, a faint, high-pitched whine grew louder. Casey joined James at the torn edge of the command bridge, overlooking a drop of over 100 feet. The sparse landscape stretched out before them and far into the left horizon. On the right, the ancient wreck protruded from its impact crater a short distance away. Further to the right, the lowlands rose into the foothills and then where the cliffs melded into the mountain range. Somewhere, on the right and closer to the foothills, the fallen star expertly blended in. "I don't see anything," said James. His eyes studied small swaths of the horizon from right to left, and then spotted something in the sky. Uh-oh. Looks like we might be getting some crabby company. James and Casey moved back under cover while a crab ship flew high overhead. The high-pitched whine diminished as it flew towards the cliffs. Layla tried to get a glimpse of the ship while remaining back from the edge. "Maybe they aren't the same pirates as yesterday." James raised his brow at Layla. "Do you really think pirates are going to let us go?" "Maybe," replied Layla, her voice lacking conviction. Casey watched the ship disappear over the cliffs. "I'm with James. I don't think they're going to let us go, not after what we did. And I'm thinking our ship must be highly unusual to get their interest." James turned away from the severed ledge. "We need to get back to the Fallen Star as quickly as possible." He motioned around the room. "Grab the food bags and whatever weapons you can find." Heather grabbed one bag of food. "Do you think they know where we are?" she asked as she looked for some kind of weapon among the dead bodies. "Not yet," said Casey, pulling a short-barreled handgun from the holster of a fallen pirate. "Or they would have landed already. Unless they find our tracks, which they might not see very well from the air, they won't know where to find us. Thankfully, the Fallen Star's adaptive skin makes it hard to see. I think they're just trying to figure out where we might be." He unlatched and removed the shoulder strap that held the gun's holster and several cartridge-like containers. Within a minute, an assortment of weapons was collected. "Oh, I wish I could get something bigger," lamented James. He secured a holstered handgun to his waist and strapped a long rifle over his shoulder next to his food bag. "Pity we don't have time to look." "Or the means to carry them," said Heather. "We need the food more than lots of weapons, and we might have too much to move very quickly." The whine grew louder. "Speaking of moving quickly, it's time to go," said Casey. "It sounds like the ship is circling back." The whine of the crab ship was intermittently muted between torn sections of the hull as they quickly retraced their steps through the wreck. The ship passed over 3 times before they returned to the room they had initially entered. James gripped their alien rifle in his left hand, while the familiar 9mm was in his right. The whine became distant again. Cautiously, James surveyed out the ripped hole. "Looks like they're heading back over the cliffs." "How fast can we make it back to the ship?" asked Heather. "Not fast enough," said James. He glanced from the flat terrain to the mountains. "Unloaded, we could probably run there in less than 10 minutes on this terrain. Unless we drop what we came for, we're going to push at least 15 minutes or more. That crab ship seems to be circling around every 5 minutes. Any ideas?" "We could stay here until night and head back after dark," suggested Casey. "Judging from yesterday and where the sun is, or star is, we probably have a couple hours to wait. If we go, it'd be better to go while they're circling over the cliffs." "Waiting gives them more time to find our prints. We didn't take any precautions against that," said Heather. Layla watched the cliffs. "But it might be safer to wait. We at least have the advantage of cover here if they're not friendly." "If they're after our ship, they probably won't kill us until they know where it is," said Casey. "Our best chance of escape is the Fallen Star." "I think we should make a run for it after the ship passes again," said Heather. It'll take a few minutes before they come back after that, and we might get lucky." "I agree," said James. "What about you, Layla?" The whine grew louder, and Layla quivered. "I'll take that as an okay," said James. "It's not much of a jump. The goal is to get to the ship. Follow our tracks back. First one back gets the ramp down so everyone can get up quickly. Through the hole cracks, the crab ship came into view, and the foursome dropped back into the shadows. Before it flew off, the crab ship circled back once more over the wreck. Heather's voice was barely a whisper. "Did they see us?" The wine circled overhead. Casey tried to glimpse the circling ship through the slashes in the hull. "I don't think so," he said softly. "They'd probably land if they saw us, or thought we were in here. Most likely they'll head off towards the cliffs again." James crouched near the slash in the wall and said quietly, "When it flies towards the cliffs, I'll count to 3 and head out first. You guys follow quickly. Casey, you okay going last?" Casey nodded. The wine circled overhead a few times and then faded away. James watched the ship head off towards the mountains and then turned to the solemn faces near him. "It's headed back to the cliffs. Ready? 1, 2, 3. James jumped out of the rip section of hull and landed softly on the ground. His eyes darted around, scanning quickly for danger. Not seeing any, he started running to the fallen star, following their footprints for guidance. Heather and Layla jumped out in succession and followed after him. When Layla started running, Casey jumped from the opening. An unexpected tug on his pack pulled him off balance, and he stumbled on landing. His heart raced as he looked back at the opening and saw nothing. From the corner of his vision, he noticed a piece of fabric torn from the top of his pack. Shaking his head at his carelessness, he darted after the others. Several minutes later, Casey was gaining on Layla and Heather when he passed the 3-quarter point. James was running almost 100 yards in front. A shiver rattled Casey's spine as the high-pitched whine unexpectedly came up behind him. A second later, the crabship passed overhead at less than 50 feet altitude. Ahead of him, bursts of adrenaline launched the others into a sprint. The ship flew ahead of James and circled into a quick landing with its crab-like claws pointing towards the runners. James skidded to a stop, trying to determine how much further the fallen star was while the ship hovered and landed to face him. Swirls of dust wrapped around an unseen object a couple 100 feet beyond the crab ship. Heather and Layla stopped beside James. Weapons swiveled to point at the ship. Casey slowed to a walk while he watched, his lungs glad for the reprieve. The crab ship sat on 3 extended skids facing the humans, its claw-like extrusions ominously pointing forward. Dust billowed under the ship while the engines continued running on low power. A hatch opened on the side, and 4 men, dressed in armor-like vests, leg and arm guards, and helmets with darkened visors, jumped out. They immediately pointed short assault rifle-like weapons at the group. They walked several yards towards James and stopped. "This is going to be awkward," said James as he weighed who to point his weapons at. The lead man shouted angrily, pointing and waving his weapon at James. "Ukai oso shiato you okanai." "I think he wants us to put our weapons down," said Layla. James clenched his jaw. "I was guessing as much." "James," said Heather, "I don't think we have much of a choice. The odds are high all of us will get hurt or killed if we don't act peacefully." "Ukai osa shiato ni okunai," came the command with greater urgency. When the humans did not drop their weapons, the lead soldier pointed his short rifle in the air and shot off a rapid volley of multiple projectiles. "Okay," said James. His hands opened slightly, fingers falling away from the triggers. "We're putting them down." He looked at Layla and Heather. "Put them down slowly." He let the 9mm drop to the ground and pulled the shoulder strap of the rifle over his head, lowering it to the ground beside the handgun. Heather followed, setting her guns down slowly and raising her hands. The commanding officer motioned to the handgun holstered on James's side. James dropped it next to the others. He then raised his hands with palms out. "It's better to be alive," Layla said, placing her gun on the ground. "There is a way out of this." Casey walked up slowly behind his friend. The handgun he had taken from the pirate ship was held out to his side, his fingers off the grip. He dropped the gun to the ground and slowly raised his hands. The 4 captors stood with their weapons ready, aimed at the humans, and waited. A ramp lowered from the hatchway the 4 soldiers had jumped from, and a middle-aged man walked out. Unlike the others, he wore a black, leather-looking jacket over a black shirt and maroon pants. Gold insignia adorned the shirt collar. His black hair was cropped short. A few scars near his dark eyes accented his olive-colored face. The man walked behind the 4 guards, his cold eyes scrutinizing the humans. Instantly his eyes softened, and the center of his eyebrows raised. "Otsano!" squealed Layla. She lost composure and ran to the man. The man's face was cautious, and then smiled with surprised joy. "Karena!" The 4 guards looked uncertain as Layla ran towards the man, but his response caused them to let her pass. The man's arms opened and pulled Layla into a warm embrace. The guards continued to point their weapons uncertainly at the other humans while he and Layla held each other for a minute. The man's large hands gently took her shoulders and held her back to look in her eyes. Tears had filled Layla's eyes and streaked down her cheeks. The smile on the man's face grew larger, and he pulled her back into another embrace. "Okay," James said, his hands still held up. "I am so confused. Do we need to hug that guy or something? Because I'm not sure how I feel about hugging alien pirates." Casey slowly walked up behind Heather. "Did I miss something?" "No," Heather said, shaking her head. "I'm as confused as you two." "So maybe this is a good thing," suggested Casey. Layla and the man were talking softly. The few words that filtered across a short distance were in an alien language. She seemed to be explaining something and pointed a few times at Heather, James, and Casey. The man's brow furrowed and his smile turned down. He shook his head and replied to Layla. "Oh, not looking good," said James. A wireless communicator squawked, and the man and 4 guards listened. The man's face turned serious. He spoke urgently to Layla and motioned for her to go up the ramp and into the crab ship. He issued orders to the guards. Layla started to object, but the man was insistent. He quickly returned to his ship with Layla reluctantly following. As they reached the hatchway, Layla paused. She asked the man something, and he pointed to the guards with his reply. He touched her arm while his head tilted inside. Her mouth started to open, then closed, and she walked inside. "Definitely not a good sign," replied Casey. "Nato osana mono ni okanai," replied the lead guard, pointing his weapons at the packs and bags. "Okay," said James. He slowly started to remove his back and bandolier. "We'll put our packs and stuff down." Casey pulled the shoulder strap and holster over his head and dropped it. He started to remove his pack when a twin-barreled object caught his attention through the large tear on the top. "I've got an idea," he whispered as he removed the pack. "Just be ready to jump aside." "Don't do anything foolish," said Heather. End of chapter.